You're not just tired because you didn't sleep enough. You're not just exhausted because life is busy. The truth is far deeper and far more fixable. You are tired because your nervous system is misaligned. There's a reason creation begins with light. Sure. From the very first moment of life, light has signaled order, direction, and purpose. And your body is no different. Deep within your brain lies a cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a kind of divine timekeeper, entrusted with the task of setting the rhythms of your body, mind, and soul. And this master clock does not respond to your alarm clock. It doesn't care about your to-do list. It responds to light, specifically the light of the morning sun. When the first rays of natural sunlight enter your eyes, something extraordinary happens. That light, filled with a specific blend of wavelengths and intensity, activates specialized retinal cells, not for vision, but for alignment. For alignment. These cells send a direct signal to the brain's internal clock saying, "The day has begun." That signal initiates a cascade. Cortisol, your body's natural alertness hormone, is released not in chaos, but with timing, with precision. Your body temperature begins to rise. Your heart rate steadies into rhythm. Metabolism switches on, and your entire system prepares to meet the day, not in survival mode, but in order, energy, and clarity. Yet so many people are missing this divine design. They wake up, stumble into artificial light, scroll through a screen, and wonder why their energy never truly arrives. They live disconnected from the rhythm of creation. Morning fatigue, anxiety, brain fog. It all begins with ignoring the most powerful environmental signal God has placed above you. And it's free. It's always been there. It just requires intention. The act of stepping outside within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking, letting that natural light strike your retinas, even for just 5 to 10 minutes, sends a message to every system in your body: wake up. Engage, align. You are not random. You are not lost. You are built to respond to light. This practice doesn't just energize, it reprograms. Do it consistently, and you begin to anchor your circadian rhythm with force. Your body starts to anticipate energy in the morning and deep rest at night. Sleep improves. Focus sharpens, mood stabilizes, and what once felt like discipline becomes desire. Because your biology is finally working with you, not against you. This is not mystical. This is not motivation. This is biology, obeying divine structure. The same way seasons change by the sun, your energy changes by your exposure to it. Light is not just illumination, it is instruction. And morning light is the clearest instruction your brain can receive to wake up, focus, and engage life with purpose. When you ignore that signal, you live in confusion. When you honor it, you align yourself with the design placed within you from the beginning. Cortisol has been misunderstood. It's not the enemy. It's not simply a stress hormone meant to be suppressed. It is one of the most finely tuned instruments in your body's internal orchestra, designed not to harm, but to activate. Cortisol is your biological ignition switch. But like any powerful force, its timing is everything. And most people's timing is broken. When cortisol rises at the wrong time, too early, too late, or chaotically, you feel the consequences. Fatigue during the day, restlessness at night, mood swings that seem disconnected from reality, anxiety that arrives without invitation. But when cortisol rises at the right time, early in the morning, just after waking, triggered by natural light and movement, it becomes holy fuel. It empowers focus. It enhances physical energy. It strengthens memory, motivation, and alertness. In the correct window, cortisol doesn't weaken you. It awakens you. The problem is that most people are experiencing cortisol dysfunction. They delay waking. They shield their eyes from natural light. They dive into digital stimulation before their body is ready. And without knowing it, they shift their cortisol peak to the afternoon or even the evening. So their body is alert when it should be winding down and exhausted when it should be rising up. This is not just poor habit. It's biological confusion. It's like setting your watch to the wrong time zone and then wondering why your life feels out of sync. But God did not design you to live out of rhythm. He crafted the body with patterns, rise and fall, inhale and exhale, light and dark. Light and dark. Cortisol is not random. It is regulated. And when you align yourself with its natural timing, you reclaim energy that feels divine in nature. You wake up with clarity instead of grogginess. You move with confidence rather than hesitation. You respond to challenges with strength, not overwhelm. Because your body is no longer guessing, it knows what time it is. The first 60 to 90 minutes of your day are sacred. This is when your cortisol should naturally peak. If you support it by exposing yourself to sunlight, moving your body, breathing deeply, you strengthen the signal. Your brain begins to trust the rhythm again, and that trust creates momentum. Hormones, neurotransmitters, and immune signals all begin to synchronize. Fatigue is replaced by clarity. Fog is replaced by purpose. And chaos is replaced by divine order. This is why timing matters more than quantity is more than quantity. You don't need constant cortisol. You need correct cortisol. Not too much, not too little, but at the right moment. When that moment is honored daily, your energy becomes consistent, your sleep becomes deeper, and your mind becomes sharper. The world will still demand your attention, but you will meet it from a place of alignment, not depletion, because your body, your brain, and your spirit are finally speaking the same language. And that language is timing. Discipline doesn't begin in your willpower. It begins in your brain chemistry. And if you've been struggling to stay consistent, to follow through, to hold the line when no one's watching, it's not just a character flaw. It might be a dopamine deficiency. Dopamine is not about pleasure. It's about pursuit. It's about pursuit. It is the molecule of motivation, the neurochemical that whispers, keep going when things get difficult. When dopamine is high and balanced, the hard path becomes the worthy path. But when dopamine is low, even small tasks feel like mountains. This is where many people are silently suffering. They wake up with good intentions, but no drive. They set goals, but sabotage themselves before the first step. They crave discipline, but feel like failures when the energy to act isn't there. And so begins the cycle of shame. But this is not simply a moral issue. It is a neurological reality. Low dopamine equals low discipline. And the solution isn't punishment, it's restoration. You must learn how to naturally replenish your dopamine system because it was never meant to be depleted by overstimulation. Every time you scroll mindlessly, binge content, or chase quick highs, your dopamine receptors get dulled. It's not the spike that damages you, it's the crash. And in that crash, your capacity for long-term effort gets hijacked. You begin to chase what's easy instead of what's meaningful. And discipline slowly dies. But God did not design you to be driven by addiction. He designed you to be driven by purpose. Your brain is built to reward effort, not just outcomes. And the miracle is, you can restore that system. You can reset the threshold for motivation and discipline. The process begins with subtraction, removing artificial dopamine spikes. Limit excessive screen time, sugar, and shallow stimulation. Replace them with what the brain truly craves: movement, sunlight, cold exposure, deep breathing, prayerful stillness, and forward action. When you begin each day with effort, when you move your body before you consume, when you earn your dopamine instead of stealing it, you reset the system. The receptors begin to heal. The motivation returns. The discipline that once felt forced begins to flow. Because now, every step of progress gives you a dose of reward. You don't just crave the finish line, you fall in love with the process. This is how soldiers are built. This is how men and women of purpose are formed, not by chasing dopamine, but by earning it through hardship, through repetition, through choosing what is difficult because it is right. The world will tell you to pursue ease, but the kingdom calls you to pursue excellence, and discipline is the bridge, not fueled by hype or shallow inspiration, but by a deep biological renewal, a brain that wants what is good, a heart that follows through, a soul that is no longer enslaved to fleeting pleasure, but anchored in purpose. And that begins when you honor dopamine, not as a god, but as a servant to your mission. Most people think sleep is passive, that it's just the body powering down, taking a break, taking a break. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is war inside your brain. While you're unconscious, a battlefield is being swept. Soldiers are being rebuilt. Weapons are being reloaded. Sleep is God's secret laboratory where the mind is healed, the body is recalibrated, and the soul is prepared for the next day's war. Your brain has a lymphatic system. The glymphatic system that only activates during deep sleep. That is when your neural pathways are flushed, cleaned, and detoxified. If you skip sleep, you don't just feel tired, you carry the toxins of yesterday's thoughts, emotions, and stress into today. And if that builds up over time, your mental clarity fades, your emotional regulation collapses, and your spiritual sensitivity dulls. You don't just lose focus, you lose discernment. Hormones, too, are recalibrated in the sacred hours of the night. Testosterone, growth hormone, melatonin, cortisol, all reset in perfect rhythm. If your sleep is broken, your hormones are broken. If your hormones are broken, your discipline, aggression, focus, and joy begin to unravel. You may try to compensate with caffeine, motivation videos, or raw willpower, but if your brain never got its full night of neurological surgery, you're fighting half blind. The spiritual implications are massive. Throughout Scripture, God uses dreams, visions, and night seasons to speak to his people. But a brain hijacked by blue light, artificial dopamine, and chemical fatigue is not a vessel. It's a fog. It's a fog. When you reclaim sleep, you don't just reclaim rest. You reclaim revelation. You don't just feel better. You hear clearer. Your prayers deepen. Your vision sharpens. Your ability to resist darkness increases, but it must be earned. The modern world has declared war on sleep. Phones in bed, screens late at night, chaotic sleep schedules, stimulants in the evening. These are not random habits. They are weapons of neurological destruction. When you stay up too late, bathed in artificial light, swiping endlessly, your body loses its natural signals. Melatonin doesn't release it. The circadian rhythm misfires. Cortisol rises at the wrong time. And instead of entering sleep in strength, you collapse into it in chaos. That cycle is not just unhealthy, it is unholy. But it can be reversed. Begin by honoring the first hour of the morning and the last hour of the night. Rise with light, not a screen. Expose your eyes to the sky, not your phone. Anchor your body in movement, prayer, and gratitude. And in the evening, shut down stimulation. Give your nervous system time to slow, to shift gears, to enter the sanctuary of sleep prepared. Darkness is not a curse. It is the cue for the body to heal. And healing is not optional for warriors. It is the source of their longevity. You want purpose? You want discipline? You want fire in your soul and power in your actions? It starts the night before. Sleep is not weakness. It is the forge of the mind, the forge of the hormones, the forge of the man or woman you are becoming. Most people misunderstand dopamine. They think it's the chemical of pleasure, of reward, of indulgence, but that's a shallow lie sold by a dopamine-sick culture. Dopamine isn't the signal that you've arrived. It's the signal that you've arrived. It's the signal that says, get up, move. It is the divine fire inside your brain that propels you toward action, toward meaning, toward destiny. When harnessed properly, dopamine becomes the spark of discipline. But when abused, it becomes the chain of destruction. You were created to desire, but that desire was never meant to be misdirected toward instant gratification. It was meant to fuel perseverance. Dopamine doesn't flood your system when you achieve the goal. It pulses strongest when you are moving toward it. This is why your brain is built for progress, not comfort. It rewards you not for sitting on the throne, but for walking the narrow path toward it. Every time you train your mind to crave the process instead of the prize, you train your dopamine system to serve your higher purpose. When you rise early, hit the cold shower, go for the run, open the book, push through the resistance, you are not just being productive. You are literally rewiring your brain to connect pleasure with effort, not escape. That is a sacred reprogramming. That is what separates the driven from the distracted, the focused from the addicted. But the opposite is true too. If your brain constantly feasts on cheap dopamine, scrolling, snacking, binging, gambling, watching what you shouldn't, you are training your neural circuits to crave what weakens you. You're telling your biology, I want reward without purpose. I want pleasure without work. That path leads to emptiness. That path leads to depression, anxiety, and a spiritual numbness that no stimulant can shake. Your dopamine system is not evil. It's a gift. But like any gift, it must be stewarded. What you pursue trains what you crave. If you begin every day seeking instant stimulation, you'll spend your life addicted to shortcuts. But if you begin every day chasing process, chasing mission, chasing the grind with joy, your dopamine system begins to align with your higher self. You start to crave what builds you. You start to pursue what transforms you. This is not just neuroscience. It's spiritual warfare. Because the enemy doesn't need to destroy your soul if he can distract your brain. He just needs to hijack your dopamine. To get you addicted to feeling good instead of doing good. To keep you numbed by endless hits of pleasure while your purpose atrophies in the background. But you can take it back on Moldova. You can fast from what dulls you and feast on what drives you. You can reset your reward system by anchoring your joy in pursuit, not comfort. The man or woman who learns to love the effort, the discipline, the grind, they become unstoppable because their fuel never runs out. They don't wait for motivation. Their brain is tuned to mission. Their soul is tuned to sacrifice. And their reward is not just dopamine, it's destiny. We live in an age where information is endless. You can read 100 quotes, watch 1,000 videos, and still be stuck in the same patterns of weakness, distraction, and fatigue. Why? Because information does not transform. Repetition does. Emotion does. Emotion does. Your brain doesn't change because you know something. It changes because you experience it over and over again until it becomes hardwired into your nervous system, until it becomes identity. The truth is, your neural circuits are not sculpted by what you think, but by what you do. What you feel deeply and what you repeat consistently. Every single action you take sends a signal across a pathway in your brain. Do it once, and it's just a whisper. Do it again, and it's a groove. Do it with emotion, intensity, hunger, fire, and that groove becomes a trench. That trench becomes a highway. That highway becomes your default. You cannot talk your way out of spiritual fatigue. You cannot journal your way to discipline. Food. You must train your brain like a warrior trains his hands for battle. And that means choosing action over theory, obedience over opinion, repetition over inspiration. You show up before you feel ready. You do the hard thing when your flesh wants comfort. You anchor truth with action, not debate. Not debate. That's how you rewire your mind. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, is not passive. It doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It responds to challenge. It responds to struggle. It responds to the moments when you override comfort and do what aligns with your purpose. That's when new connections are formed. That's when old habits are burned out of your nervous system and replaced with new, fire-forged patterns of power, focus, and discipline. But emotion matters too. If repetition is the hammer, then emotion is the fire that tempers the steel. Far. When you combine action with intensity, prayer with desperation, training with conviction, sacrifice with vision, you don't just change your behavior, you change your being. Your brain links those high emotion experiences with the actions taken. It says, this matters. Strengthen this. Strengthen this. That is how transformation happens. Not by learning alone, but by living what you've learned. This is why the enemy doesn't care how much you know. As long as you don't do, he wants you addicted to insight, but allergic to action. He wants you to feel wise, but stay weak. Feel wise, but stay weak. But if you want to break that cycle, you must make repetition your ally and emotion your weapon. You must practice what aligns with your highest values daily, deliberately, and passionately until your brain no longer sees it as effort. It sees it as normal. Lucky, you were not designed to live bound by knowledge. You were created to embody wisdom, to turn truth into transformation. And that only happens when repetition is your rhythm and passion is your fuel. Don't chase novelty. Chase mass. Your freedom doesn't come from knowing the path. It comes from walking it until your brain becomes it.